Hit me!
What's happening? What's happening? Guys, you're listening to The Cutting Edge right here on Edge Radio Network. I'm your host, Al Roundtree, a.k.a. Tree, a.k.a. Mr. Social Baby. Thank you so much for tuning in to us today, man. It's been a true pleasure. My guest for today wasn't able to make because of this storm out here in H-Town. It's storming right now, so, these H-Town streets get flooded around here real quick. But we got so much to talk about today because there's so much happening right now in the news, in the media, in the sports world. Wanted to talk about this with you guys and would love to get some of your feedback. So feel free to give us a call today at 281-587-1540. That's 281-587-1540. Would love to get your feedback. We're going to be talking football and sports and everything great about it because, that's one of my favorite subjects, obviously, for obvious reasons. If you don't know, now you know. But anyway, so today in some of the headlines, the NFL has recently came out and stated that they are canceling the preseason. What? They are canceling the preseason this year for concerns for the players and things like that, which is a huge announcement. If you haven't heard about this, this is crazy, and I wonder what that means, man. Just as a player, oh my God, that is crazy to think about. I wonder how they're going to go about it. I guess that just means that there are going to be no games. I haven't looked into some of the details as it relates to this particular thing, but it definitely means there'll probably be no preseason games. So I wonder if they'll, a lot of times in the NFL, they have scrimmages where, you'll see another team work out against one team. So and that's an opportunity though. That's the crazy thing about it. I'm thinking about how does that impact some of these players, especially the guys that are on the bubble, the guys that are the low man on the total pole. I talk about that because I was once them. And, I was once a guy who's coming into an NFL team. And when I went to the Miami Dolphins, I came in. I wasn't a guy that they had drafted. I wasn't a guy that they had signed a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract to. I was a guy that was just basically given an opportunity. And, I was the low man on the totem pole, and it was just that simple. So I needed to do some things to be able to go in there and show myself, and prove myself worthy, if you will, or what have you, and all of that. And, I needed that preseason, those preseason weeks. I needed that time to go out on the field in live game action to show that I could play at a high level with these other guys, although the team didn't know me. And so you just got to think how, how is that going to impact guys like that? Guys who might be on the bubble, guys who might be on the fence, guys that didn't get drafted, these rookie free agents that they bring in, guys who, you know, might still be in a position where they got to prove themselves with the team. You know, what are they going to do? And I would love to get you guys' feedback on that, because I just think it's so critical. Now, you know, in some regard, it's cool too, because you don't have to deal with those hard practices that we used to have. I mean, although the game and the camps and all that stuff are different today than they were when we were playing. You know, we definitely had 2 a days. We used to get up at 6:30 in the morning, be dressed and on the field. We had meetings and be dressing on the field by 8:30, 9 o'clock for a 3-hour practice. Then go to lunch. Then have meetings, then go to sleep, then wake up, have another meeting, then get back on the field. Then after that, be back in another meeting, then go to sleep and wake up to do it all again the next day. You know, that was the life. And so, you know, while I know the game is not like that anymore, they've taken out a lot of those practices and things like that. But I wonder, what are these guys going to do? So tell me what y'all think about that. Call us at 281-587-1540, 281-587-1540. Everybody watching us live right now on Facebook, what do y'all think about that? I mean, the sports is starting to come back right now. There's been a lot of regulations, a lot of restrictions around it given COVID, and understandably so, about some of it. Do y'all think it's important that we have sports right now? Or do you think, you know, it's more important that we get this thing, you know, get this spike down? There's continually a rise in cases. Some of these cities are continuing to have more and more cases, which is amidst, you know, all of these openings and things like that are going on. So what do you guys think about that, and what do you think we should be doing as it relates to sports? And I know a lot of people are itching for some football. Okay, I'm like, I can't. Who am I, the kid? I love the game. I love to see it too. But at the same time, I just wonder how, you know, the COVID thing, how is that going to impact the game or impact what we see? The league has also came out. I don't know if you're a big football fan, but the league has also came out and just said that you know, now that it's definitely going to be mandatory if they allow fans in the stadium, that all the fans have to wear masks. So, which would be crazy. I mean, which may not be some crazy for some fans, because like Raiders fans, they coming crazy looking at to the games anyway, looking crazy. But, you know, now when is that going to muffle the sound? Like, and do they have to leave a mask on the whole time? Or, you know, because like, you know, right now you go to a restaurant, you get to take it off for eating and drinking, obviously, and stuff like that. So do you have to just wear it in the stadium, or do you have to wear it while you're sitting down, or while you're there for the whole game? Like, what would that be like, and what would that experience be like? Like, how would that muffle the sound of the noise that the fans make? Like, you know, it's going to lower the sound tremendously, because I know right now you have a hard time hearing people when they're speaking in mass. So I'm wondering what that experience is going to be like, man. You know, that's going to be really crazy. You know, I don't know who's your favorite football team.
I'm a Texans fan.
Oh, okay.
I love football.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, because like, I mean, I read about, you know, Governor Abbott talking about in Texas, all Texas sporting events, they're going to allow 50% capacity.
Okay.
So baseball starts back this week, and you know, obviously football, they're getting ready to come back. Basketball will be back next week, but they're in the bubble. But so it'll be interesting, because I mean, I also too read that very same thing about no preseason. But also, I guess to kind of compensate it a little bit, they've also expanded the rosters to 80 players.
No, that's a lower. They reduced it.
They reduced it.
Yeah. So see, when you start training camp, normally it's 80. Well, it was 85.
But I thought they were talking about the active roster.
Oh no! They reduced the active roster is always 53.
Yeah, 53. Yeah, but because I read somewhere that they were talking about increasing that number.
Now the active roster, I don't know that would be.
That's what I was reading, because like I was reading yesterday about like them putting, like, now they didn't really have a set number, but I saw the 80, and I thought that's what they were talking, because they were talking about expanding the active roster to potentially compensate for like no preseason, and then like also like positive COVID cases, things like that.
Oh well, that would be interesting. I mean, that'll get very expensive.
So I was thinking like, well, if they were talking about doing that, well then no preseason. Well, cause I don't like preseason personally. If a guy that I like, it doesn't matter what team he plays for, if he gets hurt in preseason. Now for me, preseason always been something like, you know, undrafted guys, training camp guys on the practice squad. Those are the guys trying to carve out a spot.
Right.
So like for those guys, they need as much action as they can get, because everyone else, like, they're not trying to play anyway. They don't take it serious. It's like the Pro Bowl. They don't take it serious.
Right.
It's just so. But so for them, I'd like to see them have some sort of assurance of like trying to get a spot.
Yeah, how do you earn? Like we just talked about, how do you earn your opportunity?
I don't know how can they show that they belong in the league,
right,
if they're not given an opportunity to show
right,
that.
Exactly.
So it should be interesting.
But you're right. Going to your point about what they're doing, they're proposing an 80-man training camp roster. And so while they're going to scrap the entire, 2020 preseason.
Yeah.
So basically they won't go into a season, because the way the NFL works is like this. It's not so training camp, they don't have to you don't have to pay all those guys their actual contracts that they sign. Mm-hmm. You don't get your actual money until the season starts. So while, yes, they can have an 80-man roster, that's fine. But when week 1 starts, it's going to be back to probably that 53-man, 43-man, because then they would have to pay all of those contracts. And you're not trying, you're a team owner, you're not trying to be paying 80 dudes.
Yeah, and they already talked about cutting their salaries anyways. They like across the board, they were talking about, like, there was owners wanting to do, I think I saw like a 30% cut in the salaries.
Oh, really? Oh, really? I'm sure the owners want to do that.
Yeah, so I read that too, and I was like, yeah, and no player was happy about that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you only have because especially in football, you only have a handful of guys who are really just making money like that.
Right.
I mean, everyone thinks professional athletes, like, oh, you're making big money. I mean, that might be more the case in baseball and basketball, because you can spread that, especially in baseball with no salary cap, you can spread that money around. Mm-hmm. But in football, I mean, you talk about a 53-man roster. How many of those guys can really make that kind of money? Right. It's just logistically, it's not possible. Economically, it doesn't work out. And you also have a salary cap, so you can only pay guys a certain amount. Exactly. And then you also, so Pat Mahomes getting his deal, it's a big deal, but it's also very team friendly, because it also allows them to sign other players. Absolutely. And bring in free agents as well. Well,
I mean, for him, yeah, that's the benefit of his particular deal, spreading it out. And also Pat also helped sign their big D in. I think they just re-signed as well.
Got his money.
So, that kind of stuff, guys love to see that, first of all, on the team. You want to see that, the player, your star player, is also not only, he obviously is going to take care of himself, but he's also looking out for the rest of the team, because he wants the team to be successful. Mm-hmm. And by being successful, that means you got the guys that are key proponents on the team, to being successful. So you're going to make sure that they're taken care of. So, you want to make sure that those guys are there and those guys are around. So you spread your money out. Pat going to get his money. Whether it's, not only in the contract, endorsements, other things, opportunities he's going to have as it relates to what he's doing on the field, he's going to be able to profit from, and which he should. But spread some of that wealth around. You always want to play for a team or a guy like that when you got a guy who's, man, he took a little bit of a pay cut, like you've seen Tom Brady do that. Like, for those type of guys and doing those type of things, man, guys just eat that up, man. That just make you want to go play, even that much more harder for a guy.
That definitely goes into it. Like, seeing Tom Brady for years take less money so that they can build out the roster. I mean, that goes into to winning those championships. If he's taking all the money, and he deserved all the money. Mm-hmm. If he's taking all the money and you don't have money to sign other people, you're not putting a championship product out there. Right. You got to be able to fill out the roster, which is very smart. Absolutely.
Yeah, man, like I said, there's so much to cover today, y'all. It's going to be a great show. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back listening to The Cutting Edge right here on Edge, the Edge Radio Network. All right, peace.
Edge Radio Network, where we have conscious conversation.
Edge is about love, relationships, and healing.
Edge Radio is for everyone and about everyone.
Edge is about working together.
Edge Radio is about recreating a beautiful body.
Edge is about community, synergy, and empowerment.
Edge is about being kind, compassionate, and loving to all.
And Edge Radio is about beauty and fashion.
各位观众 ，Edge Radio 是大家最好听的一个电台，不要忘记听了。Yeah, I love Edge Radio. You can hear all about the topic and join us soon.
Edge is about being on the edge and not jumping. Yes.
When people stop talking to each other, society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
We work our whole lives to support our families. With one accident or illness, it can all be gone in an instant. Now there's a smart, affordable way to protect your family. Go to findhealthbenefits.com and discover low-cost life insurance for as little as $2 per month. Add to that a tax-deferred annuity that can help you protect your assets and grow your money for retirement. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094. A critical illness can strike without warning and wipe out your life savings. In fact, it's the #1 reason for bankruptcy. Find Health Benefits offers an affordable solution. Get up to $50,000 if you get cancer, stroke, or a heart attack, giving you the peace of mind to focus on getting better while the plan helps you to pay your bills and medical expenses. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094. 66% of seniors spend more time shopping for cable TV than Medicare plans. Most say because it's just too confusing. Laws change every year. The wrong plan could cost you thousands and prevent you from seeing the doctors you want. Introducing FindHealthBenefits.com. Save time, save money, see specialists without referrals. Go to FindHealthBenefits.com or call 877-235-6094 for this informative brochure.
Society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
We work our whole lives to support our families. With one accident or illness, it can all be...
We're back right here to the cutting edge on Edge Radio Network, 1540 AM and 101.7 on the FM dial. Yeah, I'm your host, Al Roundtree, man. Check us out. Give us a call. We sit up here talking sports at 281-587-1540, 281-587-1540. And again, we were just talking about how the NFL is just gotten rid of their preseason, which is just crucial, man. I don't really know my thoughts about that. Again, being like, my issue again is those guys like you talked about, those guys who looking for opportunity. You got your core group of guys who you probably, you're not going to work as hard. They never do training camp. Like you said, some don't even take it serious and that sort of thing. You got some other guy fighting for their lives, with these jobs and with these opportunities. How do they get the opportunities if there's no preseason? And then you didn't even have your mini camps, because that's another element where you get to kind of show the coaches kind of what you could do. You learn the defense, you learn the schemes, you learn the offense, you learn the terminology, you learn the techniques, then you practice it through several different mini camps or through OTAs and practices and things like that, where you get the opportunity to kind of show the coaches before you go live and get some of those live bullets where you're going to go against, another team, where you're going to get to practice against another team, get some other guys in there and that kind of thing. How are you going to gain that opportunity to really show and prove who you are, what you could do, and what you bring to the table as a player? Because a lot of guys might get missed out because they don't get that opportunity. So I while it's maybe good, I think it's really bad. I know a lot of people don't like preseason, and I don't think it has to be 4 or 5 games. I'm with that, but I definitely think you need something. Even for the guys that are veterans, that are stars, you need some live bullets just to shake the rust off, just to get in game, the game mentality, preparing for the actual game. There's no replacement that you can give being in a game, except for being in a game. So they could do all the simulations. You go to practice, a lot of times they'll have the noise. Coaches will have like a recorded noise, and they'll be playing it through the live speaker and all that kind of stuff. But it's still not a game atmosphere. It's still not walking into the stadium. It's still not hearing those fans cussing and calling your names and throwing stuff and blah, blah, blah. Like it's still not the lights. You're not putting on your game uniform. You're not, your heart not racing and all those things that just happen from being in those scenarios. I don't think you can replace that at all, except for being, playing in the game. If you guys think I'm wrong, then tell me. I'd love to hear y'all thoughts on that. I mean, V, what you think about that?
Man, I was reading something a couple weeks ago from Mike Tomlin. He talked about this exact thing, and he was pretty much saying about like incoming rookies, you're really going to see, they're really going to separate themselves from the pack, because this lack of practice, training camp, and then now no preseason, you're really going to see those who are made for this league. And
right.
But also at the same time, you also got to keep in mind that even the guys who may be a little behind a little bit, there's also this understanding like, well, they didn't have all the tools necessary to get them ready for the season. Mm-hmm. So, but I want to see that, like, because I believe certain guys, like, I'm real big on CD Lamb.
Okay.
Like, so when the Cowboys picked him up, I was like, okay, I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I like CD Lamb. Okay. And so I'm like, well, I think he's gonna be one of those guys. I think he's gonna be able to show that from the very first game that he belongs in this league. And so, but
I don't know, because see, like, here's the thing, because he hadn't got the opportunity to practice. He hadn't got the opportunity. I mean, yeah, he's off his natural ability just based on him as a player or whatever, right? He may do some things. I'm not like, listen, this is one thing I know about football. Every year there's a rookie that's going to come out and be stellar, right? Like the first, sometimes it's the first 6 weeks. Sometimes it may be a whole year. But then, so I'm not saying, I'm not wishing bad on CD Lamb or anything like that, but I'm just saying, given the reality of the situation is, he may not come out and do good. You know why? Because he ain't seen, the likes of these players rotating, changing defenses and being just as strong and fast as he is on the other side of that ball. Like, guys who can make a play, it ain't like in college when you would run a curl route and you may come back, you on a curl route and the DB don't fight back for the ball. Well, in the pros, they come to get that. You could stop on a route and maybe catch a ball like a curl route in college, and the DB probably wouldn't jump in front of you or anything like that. Well, in the pros, they come to get that. So you can't handle it the same way. And, in a game, he might just muscle memory, what have you, just from running routes and doing it so many times, he may forget. Then some of these dudes gonna be coming at him like he may not have the same experience. So I just don't, so if he comes out and he does really well, great for him, obviously, right? But I don't know that I've ever seen like a rookie who first day in practice is just, I haven't seen it. Now, I ain't been on every football team. I haven't been in every practice. But in my time, I haven't seen a rookie in any position come into the league off the cuff and just be like, ooh, cool. Like, you know.
No, I'm not saying I don't think he's gonna come in and like dominate. But I think is their system and like the weapons that they have on the offensive side of the ball. He of most of the position players, the skilled players that went in the first round. I look at him and saying he probably has the highest ceiling because he has Zeke. I mean, I'm pretty big on Dak personally. I think Dak is a good quarterback.
You do.
The Cowboys obviously don't think he's a good quarterback because then if they did, they would have paid him.
Right.
But I think he's a good quarterback. I like Amari Cooper. Don't love Amari Cooper. He's a good receiver. I wouldn't have paid him all that money. But they have the weapons in place where I'm looking like, okay, he can kind of just like, you know, because you can't double anybody now. You can't. Who you going to double? I mean, if you double one of these guys, you're not going to double the rookie. And he's a great route runner. He has great hands. I just think personally he's going to do well. Now, obviously, there's going to be a learning curve for sure. There's definitely going to be a learning curve. You're going to need that because I don't think like I agree there should be like maybe 1 or 2 preseason games just so guys can, you know, get back into football mode. Because I don't want to see, like, I'm a Texas fan. I don't want to see Deshaun Watson go out week 1. You know, trying to knock the rust off. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see any because I think that's going to devalue the product. You're going to see like the first couple of weeks of the season, it's not it's not great football you're seeing because teams are knocking the rust off, and it's going to be like that across the board. But there's also going to be those guys who just kind of can maybe take advantage of that,
right,
or kick into another gear,
right.
So I think you'll see that as well.
Right. I think, well, you know, I it's going to be interesting, man. When you talk about, you're right, there are some other pieces around those players that got to help and, you know, help those guys along become successful. So you're absolutely right. Your thoughts on Dak, I don't know that I agree with you. But, you know, just because Dak, you know, watching a lot of quarterbacks, I haven't seen him come through in the big game. You know, so he always starts off the season great. Like this is him. Starts out come fresh out of training camp, first start of the season. Hey, he good, right? But after week 7, he a totally different player. Like I think the fatigue of the season starts to get to him, and then it just seems like when the pressure's on, where a play needs to be made, I haven't seen him make that play. Especially when it counts, like when they really need that play to be made, I haven't seen him make that play. I mean, and I think that's what a lot of teams judge paying their quarterbacks on is how far can you take us? Can we lean on you to lead us there? And I don't know that, to be honest with you, I really don't think that Dak is the quarterback to take him there.
See, I don't know. See, even using that argument, because then I can look around the league and see so many guys who got paid that I'm just like, well, I'd take Dak over them in a heartbeat. I mean, and I'm not down on this guy because I'm kind of a fan, but Kirk Cousins, you gonna give Kirk Cousins $80 million? What has he done in his career? There are guys. So Blake Bortles has gotten money. A lot of these guys have gotten money, and
Blake Bortles got drafted and paid money when he got drafted.
But they weren't. First of all, that was a joke of a pick. When he was coming out of college, I was like, you can't get this guy. You can't value this guy this way. Because I remember at that time, the Texans were potentially talking about taking him. Thank God we didn't. But it was one of those things. I was like, no, it's just, and obviously I'm not a talent evaluator. But it's like, I feel like there's certain things you see in the process. And I'm like, what are y'all seeing from him that I don't see? Or like certain guys like Russell Wilson. And I remember Russell Wilson got drafted. I remember like, how was he not I believe it was completely based on his size. Because it was he's now paved the way because now a guy like Kyler Murray he can go number 1.
Right. But
Russell Wilson should have been a first round pick. The talent was there. He had the IQ. He had everything you needed that you're looking for in a potential franchise quarterback. The only thing he didn't have was the height. So I'm like, well, now he's paved the way. Now you can see these smaller guys getting drafted. Baker Mayfield also goes number 1. These are small quarterbacks. These aren't big, towering dudes. But, you know, someone has to be set that trend. Right.
And he did that. I mean, he did that, but in Dak's case, I haven't seen what they need from him in order to, I'm not saying he don't deserve to get paid. I don't know if I don't think he's should get paid top tier quarterback money.
No.
I would say that.
there were people talking about that, and I was like, he definitely deserves to get paid, but I don't know how you justify, like, he's a 4th round quarterback, and he's done just about everything you could have asked him to do. There's also been this whole issue with the coaching situation. Jason Garrett has been up and down his entire stint in Dallas. So he has to take some of that ownership. Now you've also changed coaches. And so, like, how much of this are you putting on Dak that you're willing to look at him and say, like, no, I don't think so?
Well, yeah, I mean, apparently they're looking at a lot of it. So I think, you're right, but it goes on both parties. It goes on the coach and the player. Sometimes, I say, sometimes people will say coaches can't do everything. We can't go out there and throw the ball in and catch it, But it's also a coach's job to put the players in the best position for success.
Absolutely.
Right. So there's some responsibility on both sides as it relates to that. But, certain things, when you see certain throws that I recall last year, Dak Prescott, a couple swing route throws, he had, Zeke wide open, missed him, like, a couple times, and it could have been touchdowns and stuff like that. And you like, what? Like, what? Like, so certain things like that, I'm like, man, you can't blame Jason Garrett for that.
Now, what about? Now, I'm a fan, but what about Lamar Jackson? Now, the thing is, he's so dynamic. It's easy to overlook it and for certain things to be overshadowed in his game. He's just that dynamic. But I've seen him miss some throws that I'm like, come on, dude, you got to make that. You got to make that. But he's so great at everything else. The improvisation, the being able to just make a play out of absolutely nothing. Right. And so it's certain things that overshadow, and like you're going to allow him to, to develop naturally as he continues to grow in the system. So it's like, and I know Dak isn't Lamar, but I've seen things from Dak where I'm like, okay, only a handful of guys in the league can do that.
I would agree, but I think on Lamar's side too, like, yeah, there's definitely some holes in his game, but I think he also improved a lot as a player last year. Like, you saw a huge jump from, his first year to his second. And, and so I think, that's just things it just needs to work on, like he never came in, being touted as like this amazing passer. Right. And then he really changed everybody's mind his second year. Like, whoa, this kid can throw the ball. Right. So, so there's going to be everybody, there's going to be some missed throws, some inaccurate throws, maybe some throws that he should make but I think you could see a vast change. Let me ask you this. In terms of growth and getting better, who do you see it more from, Dak and being in his third, fourth year versus Lamar in his second?
Definitely Lamar, without question. But I also say this too, not because I personally think Lamar he's just a better player than Dak. I don't even think he's close. Okay, that's just my opinion. But I also think it's the system. The team is built around him. The
Absolutely,
is built, and that's
we're gonna talk about that.
The quarterback has to have that. The quarterback has to have. It has to cater to them.
Oh, we're gonna definitely talk about that, man. We're gonna talk about that real quick, because I'm always hearing that. We're gonna take another break, but we're always hearing about coaches and the players and that whole dynamic and how they pick players. And I just thought that there's a lot I want to say on that, man. We'll be right back. We're gonna take a quick break, y'all. You listen to the Cutting Edge right here on the Edge Radio Network.
Between the ages of 0 and 5, a child's mind is very impressionable. Researchers call it the theta brainwave. This low frequency is the state of consciousness between the conscious and subconscious worlds. In this state, the mind is capable of deep and profound learning, healing, and growth. There is a subconscious loop that's created during these early years. Who you believe you are has been downloaded based on experiences that you have had. A bad experience could create fears and limitations. Do you love who you are? Do you believe in yourself? The reality is that you can't control your childhood. All you can do is interpret it. You can choose to see your good and your value. Try this experiment. Project forward. See yourself at 80 years old. Now you have lived a lifetime. What advice would you have for your younger self? What risks would you have taken? What relationships would you have avoided? Did you celebrate life? Did you allow yourself to feel, to be present? Your 80-year-old self would tell you to not live in fear, to have faith that things will work out, that all you have to do is persist until you succeed. Your 80-year-old self would tell you to stay healthy, to take care of your body. And it would ultimately tell you to share your gifts with the world.
This is former Rocket Robert Reed.
This is Mel Hewitt of Athletes United.
And we want to talk to you of our new program and podcast. We're talking about former athletes who are doing a lot of things in the community.
Various athletes in various sports. Swimming, track, soccer, football, baseball, you name it.
Former and current athletes here in the greater Houston area.
All promoting wellness, health. All promoting that which makes us all better.
Of Edge Radio, truth still matters.
Welcome back to the ride, y'all. Y'all listening to the Cutting Edge right here on Edge Radio Network with your man Al Roundtree. I got my co-host for the day, man, my producer, my man Vince over there holding it down for us. So glad to have him and him showing us all his love, man. We just sitting here talking a bunch of football today. It's been a great combo because we don't get to talk a lot of sports because we always talking business, we always talking culture, we always talking pandemic. So it's fun to talk a little bit of sports today. And right now we're just having a conversation talking about, one, he was talking about the, players like Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott being added to a team, and how, what one reason why Lamar is so successful is because the team or the offense was kind of built around him as a player. Now, it's a novel concept, and it is not. As a football player, we always thought when you go into a team, go to a system, a new organization or whatever, especially when they draft a player, it only makes sense if you're drafting a player, don't come in here. It's like trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. Like if this dude has been doing this his entire career, playing football, little league, he's got certain skill sets, certain attributes, whatever. Like, why would you go in there and try to make him something that he's not? You should design the offense around his skill set or create plays that he's going to be successful at because of his ability or what have you. And that's what the Baltimore Ravens have done. It's not like, which amazes me how everybody was coming out saying, oh my God, Coach Harbaugh is such a genius. And like, no, like I was like, what? Like, that's what he should do. Like, use this dude's skill set to help the team. Like, I don't understand how that was such a creative or such ingenuity that people thought that the idea was so amazing that, you know, that he was able to draft a guy and then come in, because before him they had Flacco. Mm-hmm. And you know Flacco can't do the stuff that this boy is doing. Like, but they saw that, right? And so then they made the changes, and you saw the huge difference in their season and what they've been able to do. Now, I mean, I just think it's great because they're using his skill set. That's the way he played when he was at Louisville. It was the same way. Same almost type of offense. I'm sure they consulted with the team or OC there and all that kind of stuff to help design an offense around what he's doing. And it makes sense. I just never understood that. Now defense is easier, I think, to be able to have a player convert, because most defenses are in a lot of ways going to be the same. You know, until you get somebody who just designs like a crazy, drastic, differently defense, and then that's another thing. And I've been in that experience too. I've had that as a pro. I've had a coach tell me, you know, draw a square on a square on a whiteboard, and say, "This is a circle." Like, and tell everybody in the room, like, this is a circle. You like, wait, what? Like, wait a minute. What a minute, man. This is a circle. And it was like, oh my God, like, what are we doing? Right? Like, but anyway, but more often than not, you know, you'll be on the defensive side, it's easier to have a guy convert over and become, you know, that player. But on the offensive side, it's tough. Because people, they've been using their certain skills, they've been running routes a certain way, they've been doing this, been doing that, and you know, you draft them only to tell them that, oh, hey, we need to change, you know, or we want you to do this, you know. So I just felt like, you know, you're right, but when they drafted Dak at Dallas, they knew what they were getting in that player. Like, you know what I mean? So it's not, to me, while I understand the point, but I also feel like it's not Lamar's fault while he has been so successful. Like, that's what the coaching staff, not saying it's a fault, but I'm just saying, like, that's what the coaching staff is supposed to do. Yeah. They're supposed to, like, when they knew Tony Romo was leaving, or they should have been cultivating more of the offense around Dak and his skill set, instead of saying, hey, we're still going to run this traditional West Coast style offense or whatever they ran. You know, I think that only makes sense, especially in this age of the game.
Now, I said that about Lamar to his credit, because I see that and I'm like, that's what you should be doing. Right. Because I look at that, like I said, as a Texans fan, I look at that and I look at Deshaun Watson and Bill O'Brien. Mm-hmm. Now, Deshaun's rookie year, Bill O'Brien didn't seem to have a leash on him at all. He let him be who he was. And he was dynamic. Mm-hmm. He was making play. He was doing things like, yo, a rookie should not be able to do these sort of things. That's just how it came off. But then, you know, I understood he had a knee injury. But, like, ever since then, it's like Bill O'Brien's been trying to coach him with a leash on. Mm. Like, I'm not, you know, I'll let you do a little bit, but not too much. We want to go too crazy. Don't do that. But that's what makes him who he is. Mm-hmm. Like, I couldn't imagine Harbaugh doing that to Lamar Jackson, thinking you're going to get the same exact player. Right. So I look at that, like, I look at Lamar Jackson, and he's probably the most dynamic player I've ever seen play the game of football in just a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. Like, and I've seen guys like Mike Vick play the game, and it's like, that was insane to think that a quarterback could do those sort of things. Mm-hmm. But I'm watching Lamar Jackson, I'm like, if you took any part of his game and you tried to control that, I don't think he'd be the same player. Right. And it's the same way I looked at Deshaun Watson when Bill O'Brien gets involved and tries to control certain parts of him, you can tell he's uncomfortable. Like, because he's not able to completely be himself. Mm-hmm. But like, whenever he lets him go, does his thing, I've seen him make amazing, incredible plays. Mm-hmm. And that's just what it is. Same thing with Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. You just let Pat Mahomes be Pat Mahomes. If he wants to throw a no-look pass, let him throw a no-look pass. Right. He's probably the only guy in the league that can do that. And so it's like, you got to let these guys be who they are. Right. And it's like, when you try to like control them and try to reel them back in, well, that's when you get a compromised player. Mm-hmm. Now, I name all three of those quarterbacks. I do not think Dak is on the level of any of those three. Mm-hmm. Now, I say that all the time. But I also look at the guys who, like I said before, who are getting paid and who have gotten paid. and you trying to tell me you can't pay Dak? I don't understand that. Like you trying to tell me that like these guys are worth this amount of money, but Dak can't get that,
right?
And like, I mean, you bring in everything. He was a 4th round pick, and he's also had one of the better offensive lines. So like, but like, you know, but that also goes for Zeke as well. That means for Zeke, he should be able to tote that thing and just tote it all day. And with Dak throwing the ball, Dak doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. So he does a lot of things that you look for in a quarterback or even a franchise quarterback. But I keep thinking maybe with this new system with Mike McCarthy, I don't know, maybe he's an even better version of himself. But with all the contract stuff going on, then the no preseason, lack of training camp, practices and all that, I don't know. Like I would start to look at it like, I don't know, because I feel like a lot of guys are going to be hurt by this. A lot of guys are going to be affected by this.
Yeah.
And that could be one of those guys because the way his offseason was and just the way the NFL's offseason was altogether, he could be affected. He could be one of those guys. And it's like, but I definitely think Andy Dalton is the backup option. Like to go out and sign Andy Dalton was pretty much telling Dak like, yeah, we don't really have that much faith in you. So I look at that.
I definitely agree with that. But I mean, I don't know that Andy Dalton is definitely the answer either, to be honest with you. But you know, because you know, you're right about this time with this whole COVID thing. Like their offenses always seem to gel and mature slower than a defense. See, because the defense is straight reacting. We know what we need to do. This is my area, or this is my guy. I'm reacting. Let's go head hunt. Let's go. Offense is more, you know, you got to think, you know, the timing has to be right. You know, the alignment has to be right. We got to run, you know, all of those things where, you know, the defense is just a lot of times just straight energy reacting. Let's go get it. You know, beating the guy, defensive end, beating the dude off the line is just mano a mano. He don't know I'm about to just run past him, but I'm just about to run past him right now. Like, you know, so to your point, like from an offensive standpoint, I think you're right. Like it takes offense, you know, a lot longer to gel. Because anytime training camp started, I've never been in a camp. College, high school, pro, Canada, it don't matter. Wherever I've been, defense going to come out and start doing well before the offense does. Because it's just a natural, it's just reacting. It's just us going off our own gut, just doing our thing, our ability, what we've been working out, training, and never play it down, you know, down together. But we could go out here and crush it on defense, where offense is a lot more, you have to be a lot more in unison and a lot more, you know. So for them not having the practices, I hope they get a lot of time in, you know, this preseason to practice. I'm sure they would. But, you know, not having them live wire bullets going is just, you know, it's another thing. It's truly another thing. Maybe they try to make up for it in practice, which is still, so maybe you kind of look at it more like a college thing, where, you know, in college we used to just scrimmage against each other all the time and all of that, and you try to get those live bullets going as much as possible, but even that still is not game, you know. So
I'm really just hoping we don't see like an increase in injuries because of things like, because of the lack of practice and lack of preseason. Like, I'm really hoping that's something, because that's definitely one thing I don't want to see. I'd rather us not play. Personally, I was one of those people who was like, I could go a whole season without these sports. I think I can, because I feel like, you know, with COVID going on, and then also you got the you know, the pretty much the social justice matters that are going on in our country. I feel like those two things, in my opinion, take precedence over sports.
Absolutely.
But you obviously, you know, owners and whatnot, they have their bottom line. I get that. And also, if you're an athlete, and I understand, like, even if you are someone, you're like, yeah, these issues are important, but when you're an athlete, you know, this is what you do. You're so conditioned, like, this is what I do. I got to do this. If I'm not doing this, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. So I understand that as well. But I'm looking at, my main thing was like, I don't want anyone, I don't care any team, because I don't wish, you know, physical harm on anyone. Like, I don't want to see any like injuries or like, you know, like of a serious nature. Right. Because like I could see that being a thing where like no preseason, lack of practices, so you're not really so you're trying to play yourself into game shape. Right.
Right.
So
right.
it's like, so it's gonna be this.
Well, I'm sure they're gonna have some sort of, you know, way these coaches and these organizations, the league, they're gonna figure it out. There'll probably be a lot of, like I said, practices against another team, or you'll spend a lot more time, because typically in the training camp you would do, the first week you do it with your team, but then the next week you may go and practice against another organization. When I was with Miami, we scrimmaged the Tennessee Titans. We also came to Houston, worked out against the Texans. Even when I was with the Bucks, we came to Miami. So I mean, you get a lot of work in, because it's always good to see how you're doing against another team who don't know you, don't know what you're working on or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see, and I hope Dak gets paid, man. But I wonder if they're gonna have, you talk about leashes, is Jerry Jones gonna have Dak on a short leash? Mike McCarthy's offense was always one. I mean, he had Brett Favre, he had. Now he had Aaron Rodgers. So I mean, he had quarterbacks that nice. I mean, easy. You gotta say Aaron Rodgers probably might make the Hall of Fame. Brett already in there. So I mean, he's always had quarterbacks that was really nice with it.
Yeah, but
so
just like we were saying earlier, I don't think Andy Dalton's the option. Like, even if Dak isn't playing well, I mean, but I feel like he had to be playing extremely bad for you to switch to Andy Dalton.
Right, but I'm saying, are they going to? So you're right. So my question is, how much of a leash are they going to have on Dak when the season starts? Are they going to give him the first 2-3 games? Does he get 3 games in? You know what I mean?
I don't see why because like you also take in consideration, it is a new coach. Bringing his system. So
right.
There has to be a learning curve. Or at least there should be.
But they don't have the time. Yeah, you're not having a preseason.
But like, so how is that any different if you bring in Andy Dalton? If Andy Dalton is pretty much in the same situation, he's new to the team.
But they're gonna give Andy Dalton a longer leash because of those same reasons. They're gonna give. Now, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right. Yeah. Right. But they're gonna give Andy Dalton a longer leash, because he's new to the team, like you said. He was a backup quarterback. He's not starting, so they're not even looking. Like right now, Andy Dalton got no pressure. He chilling.
That is true.
Right?
No pressure. For the first time in his NFL career, he has no pressure on him.
He just chilling. So he gonna get his opportunity. I don't even know if he gonna get an opportunity to play in a real game. So if they pull Dak, they probably will give him. So you're right. They may give him. They're gonna probably give him the first quarter of the season. So they may give him 6 weeks. Yeah. First
now
third.
For sure. Like if he's first 6 weeks of the season and he just doesn't look well, like for whatever reason, look like he's regressed, and then maybe you can see it in his game. He doesn't look like the same player. He doesn't look like he's taking the next step. That's also the thing for him too. I haven't really. I mean, even though I believe he should get paid, to be completely honest, there are certain things I look at his game. He hasn't really necessarily taken that next step forward yet. Now, there's other guys that we've talked about. I look at them as like, okay, I've seen that. I've seen the next step, the progression in their game.
Exactly.
But I have yet to see that in his game.
Exactly.
Now, he could just be a version of the quarterback that he is, but I still think that's better than half the league.
Do you think? Back to your point about Lamar and the offense being cultivated around him, like, do you think that that's what Dak is missing? Do you think he's not getting? Because I don't, here's why I'm asking, because, Dak could run a little bit. Now, he's not, nobody's a Lamar Jackson, right? But if I had to say Dak was a runner, I'd probably put him in the same place as maybe just below Russell Wilson.
Okay, yeah.
Just below Russell Wilson, right?
Yeah.
So do you think, because I don't even know that, you talk about Deshaun Watson. To me, Deshaun is good at extending plays.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he does so well. So the play breaks down for whatever reason, or if he makes a mistake, or if he just want to do whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he could do that. He does that well. I don't know that Dak, I don't know if I've seen enough of Dak, let me say that, to say, that he could, I think he could do that. But I don't know that the offense that he's going to step it into now with Mike McCarthy, I don't know that it's definitely ain't built for a quarterback like that, or like a Lamar Jackson, or a Russell Wilson,
it's not.
It's, you know what I mean?
It really, and that'll be the interesting thing, because I thought Mike McCarthy was an interesting hire, and I thought that Jason Garrett should have been gone. Okay. But I thought Mike McCarthy was an interesting hire, because I kept thinking, like, well, how does that work for Dak? Like a guy like Zeke, I mean, you just give him an offensive line, give him the ball, let him go to work.
Oh, yeah.
So he won't be affected by it. If anything, he'll probably see an increase in his touches.
Mm-hmm.
But with Dak, I'm looking, especially because he's had Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Mike McCarthy's had Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, and these guys can throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So in a Mike McCarthy system, your quarterback needs to throw the ball.
Well, you know what, too? I mean, we don't know yet. We haven't seen it. But to Mike's credit, he did do some research on like these, you know, these newer offensive styles that are out there. So I don't know how much he plans to implement into what he's done. But the fact that he was open and looking and researching and doing things, I thought that showed a good sign.
Yes, yeah, that you're willing to at least change or at least consider certain things. I thought that was important. But I'm looking at Dak and I'm like, he's going to have to throw the ball more in order for him to take the next step and be viewed as one of the top tier quarterbacks. There's certain things he's going to have to do because in his first few years in the league, that's what he's looked like. He's looked like a version of the very same player. He's been like pretty much the same every year he's been in the league.
Right.
And I don't think that's necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily good either.
Right.
He haven't really shown any growth.
Right.
So like, but if he's able to show growth under Mike McCarthy, who I think he could. I think it'd be very interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. I mean, this is gonna be this is his year.
I mean, yeah,
it's it. So it's got to go down, baby. And it's unfortunate that Jerry Jones always doing people like that, man. So and I don't know. I don't really like Jerry as an owner, but it ain't my team, so it don't really matter what I say.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly how I feel too.
You know what I mean? So he gonna do what he want to do. It's his team, his money. And that's exactly what he's doing, right? So he's been doing it.
That's also part of their problem, though. It's like
it has been.
It's his team, so he views it like, well, it's my team. I do what I want.
He won't get out of his own way. You know what I mean?
I think once he understands that he is his own worst enemy, I think the Cowboys could really just take off.
Oh yeah.
But he has to like get out of his own way of doing these things. It's like, I mean, You're your own worst enemy, man.
Absolutely.
Like with the contracts and decisions that he makes, he kind of makes some decisions. You like, well, I don't know, Jerry.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if they're gonna ever win. I mean, I'm sorry, Cowboy fans, but I always think their team is they're decent, but they're not good enough to get over the hump.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've seen even when Tony Romo was quarterback and all of that. Like I just never saw.
I looked at the team. I feel like they've had some good teams, but for whatever reason. They just can't seem to get over together.
Exactly. So I don't know, man. But anyway, it's been an interesting show, man. Definitely love talking football, man. That's my favorite subject. You know what I mean? So Vince, man, I truly appreciate your time today, brother, and working and talking with me today, man. It's been a great show. Glad that all my folks that's been paying attention on Facebook. Everybody's streaming with us on online, listening to 1540 AM 101.7. This has been The Cutting Edge with your show host, Al Roundtree. We'll see y'all tomorrow with our guests and our Smart CEO Thursdays. We'll see you then. Peace.
This is KGBC, Galveston, Houston, 1540 AM, and K269GS, Pasadena, 101.7 FM.
Hey, listeners, in my opinion...
Wait. Your opinion doesn't matter. This is where opinions